The Necromancer is a class that uses dark forbidden magics to be able to vanquish their enemies. They turn the forces of hell's magic back against them in furious attacks of shadow, blood, and bone. And today, we're going to teach you everything you need to know by this class. I'm Zesty Fresh with Zaza Games, and let's get into it. The Necromancer has a huge array of different styles within it that you can utilize while playing this class. You're going to mix and match these styles together to create your specialization. But first, let's talk about how to play the Necromancer as a whole. Starting off, you have 3 different unique resources. First is Spirit. This is the green bubble in the bottom right corner. Spirit generates slowly over time, and most of your abilities use Spirit to do their effects. Your basic attacks will sometimes generate you additional Spirit based off of different talents that you've chosen. You're definitely at your strongest when your Spirit orb is absolutely full, and you want to make sure it's that way before you do any tough encounters. The next resource is Corpses. Some enemies that you've killed will leave a corpse on the ground. This is a little red pile of blood and bones, and some of your abilities when cast on the corpse are going to do additional effects. Keeping a pile of corpses nearby is an important way to play most of the Necromancer's specializations. The final resource are Summons. You're never truly alone if you're playing the Necromancer, because you can raise skeletal warriors, mages, and giant golems. Bottom right beside your Spirit orb, you're going to see 2 different symbols. One is the amount of skeletal warriors you have summoned, and the other is the amount of skeletal mages you have summoned. These orbs will light up when you have the maximum number available. If you cast Raise Dead after this, it'll instead summon a skeletal priest, which will last a short duration and heal all of your existing minions. Managing skeletal priests and making sure you're keeping all your minions up and healthy is very important. There are 3 different styles your warriors, mages, and golems can take on, and you're going to want to pick different styles depending on how you're playing and what your current build is. Or you can gain passive bonuses for sacrificing your ability to summon these creatures to benefit yourself. For an arsenal, you're going to have swords, daggers, scythes, wands, focuses, and shields. Each weapon type has its own unique stat that it's going to give you, and you want to make sure to match up your stats from your weapons with the build that you're going with. So now, let's get into the playstyles. Starting off with the Summoner. The Summoner playstyle revolves entirely around the minions, raising as many minions as you can, and then keeping the minions nice and healthy. And you're going to get talents throughout your talent tree focused on improving the power of your minions and ability to do things like summon an army of them. This specialization caps off with Kalan's Edict, which is going to give you massive minion attack speed as long as you haven't taken damage in a short period of time. The Summoner takes on more of a nurturing role, trying to keep its summons healthy and well protected while letting them do most of the damage. You'll be utilizing your Golem special abilities, as well as constantly summoning skeletal priests. You need to make sure that your skill set is capable of creating corpses for you to work off of to keep all those summons up and operational. The next playstyle is the Corpsemaker. The Corpsemaker focuses on creating corpses around the arena and then utilizing those corpses to great effect. This is a very common playstyle that uses Corpse Explosion and Corpse Tendrils to manage large groups of enemies and do massive amounts of damage. The Corpsemaker playstyle plays kind of antithetically to the Summoner because you're going to be using up the corpses for your damaging outputs, and you're not going to be able to have enough corpses to also keep all of your minions alive. These 2 playstyles just don't work together. This playstyle definitely revolves around talents that improves your Corpse Explosion, as well as make sure that you produce more corpses with your average attacks. Next up, we've got the Vampire. The Vampire is a frontline damage dealer that does AoE around it and keeps itself extremely healthy with high amounts of Fortify as well as Lifesteal. There are a lot of blood-based talents in your talent tree as well as a lot of self-healing abilities, and you mix those together to create that Vampire playstyle that's siphoning health from nearby enemies. You'll notice playing the Vampire that you almost never go down. You're just so healthy and have so much Fortify that it's really hard for enemies to do anything about you. The whole Vampire specialization revolves around these blood orbs that drop, and picking up the blood orbs is going to give you additional effects on your spells. Due to the spawning of blood orbs on enemies, this is definitely a melee specialization. You're constantly running in and getting close to enemies, so you want to make sure you have high armor and high survivability. Being healthy or over 80% HP is going to cause your abilities to be able to overpower thanks to Rathma's Vigor. Overpower is extremely important to the Vampire specialization. The Plaguebringer specialization is a long-range support. It leaves pools on the ground that causes enemies to be slowed and take constant damage. The specialization also uses the curses of Iron Maiden and Decrepify to cause large areas of control against enemy units. It also upgrades Corpse Explosion to turn it into its own AoE effect on the ground. When you pick up the Keystone Shadow Blight, all of your shadow effects will have a much higher ramp rate and your damage over time effects will go through the roof. The specialization is heavily support, and it struggles a little bit on its own. It kind of needs another player involved in the process to be at its most effective, but it can be extremely powerful if you're buffing a group of allies. The Bonesmith is more of a frontline tanky specialization, increasing its personal armor and creating areas around it that deal increased damage. You can lock enemies into bone prisons and stop them from moving around, and you have a lot of control over the battlefield. This specialization flourishes right in the front lines and should definitely be performed with a big shield to keep yourself defensive. Now, the Bonesmith actually wants you to pool up essence. It has a lot of abilities that do additional effects based off of how much essence you have, so it's one of the few specializations that has a lot of essence management. If you like shrugging off attacks and being right in the thick of things, this would be the specialization for you. You're going to be taking parts of each of these different specializations and merging them together to create an actual character build. You might be something like a Bonesmith Summoner, a frontliner with heavy armor that continuously heals its nearby allies and protects an army of damage dealers to do the brunt of the work for it. Or you might be a Corpsemaker and a Plaguebringer, pulling enemies in and holding them within your large area of effects for continuous damage, slows, and other benefits. When you get to the higher level nightmare roles and might begin struggling with random builds, head out to websites like maxroll.gg to figure out build recommendations, read them up, and see why they're recommending these combinations of skills to build this type of Necromancer. So if you want an army summoning, blood sucking, corpse exploding master of offense and defense, then the Necromancer is the class for you. And I hope this guide taught you everything you want to know about this class. I'm Zesty Fresh, this is all the games, and we'll catch you guys next time.